In the interest of time, it's 8:15, so we're gonna go ahead and start. Thank you so much again for being here for, is that our, no, that's our second coffee with the principal for this year. So just our agenda for today that we're gonna cover, we do have a community partner that is here to talk about the family health centers and how that can support our community. Specifically, we'll go over the ELPAC, how to read your SCORE report, any reclassification criteria, and then we'll close off with parent-teacher conferences, upcoming parent events, and then ELAC on campus as well. So I'm going to switch over to your presentation, and you let me know when you'd like me to click on it. Yeah, but come on up. I can click it, or up to you. Then you can just go to here. Yeah.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Liara. I'm with Family Health Centers of San Diego. For those of you that aren't familiar with us, we do have clinics throughout the county. The closest being Chula Vista Family Health Centers off of Landis. And we also have one, I think about 1.5 miles away, called Rice Elementary, or sorry, Rice Family Health Centers. And a little background about Family Health Centers. Our mission has for over 50 years been to provide caring, affordable, high quality healthcare and supportive services to everyone. And our special commitment is to those who are medically underserved, those who are low income, and those who are uninsured. So when I think about the work that we do to really help connect you all to our medical services, I think about carrying out this mission. And then a bit more information about our organization. We have over 20 primary care clinics. So that's where you would go to the doctor for any general checkups, any sports physicals, anytime your kids are experiencing symptoms that you want to be seen at the doctor for. And something else that I'm really proud to say is we're the largest safety net provider in the county. So that would mean that we are the largest provider, as I mentioned, to those that are uninsured, low income, and medically underserved. And feel free to let me know if you need me to speak up, slow down a bit, or if you have any questions. And then a bit more background about myself. I work in patient engagement, so my job is really to be the bridge, as I mentioned, between you all to our community and the care that you all need and deserve. On this map, you'll see that we have clinics throughout the county, going as far east as El Cajon, as far west. We do have one in the beach area. It's Beach Area Family Health Centers near Pacific Beach. We go as far south as Chula Vista and Rice, and we're also expanding into North County. We now have standalone mental health clinics in Oceanside and Escondido. And then these are obviously the ones that will be closest to our community here in Chula Vista. And then going into our medical services, so we do offer general primary care. So that's where you would get general checkups. If you or, I'm sure you're all familiar, but kids need annual well child checks. I would say that that's the highest need for services that we provide is physicals for kids to make sure that they're up to date with all their developmental and medical needs. We also offer mental health services. We have dental, vision. We also offer full spectrum prenatal care, and then transitioning into pediatrics. As I mentioned, Chula Vista Family Health Centers would be the closest and largest one near us. It's off of Landis, kind of near 3rd Avenue. And we offer the broad spectrum of services here. We have primary care, pediatric services. We also have vision at this location coming soon. I believe they're expected to open next month. And then next to Chula Vista Family Health Centers across the street is a standalone mental health center. So I think with the pandemic, we've seen a really large increase of mental health needs that existed before, but we're glad that now that it's coming to the surface, we're able to provide counseling, different mental health services to the community. Yes, so there is a specific intake process for mental health appointments. I believe our turnaround for that intake call is within the week. So we would be able to get you in with that referral and then being seen by a counselor the intake appointment is within a week, and then we get you scheduled for the next counseling appointment. That's a good question. And then Rice Family Health Centers, another clinic nearby, is on campus with Rice Elementary. So with this campus, what we've seen is there is a high, the population served. Most of the families, I would say, live within the 3 to 5 mile radius. So I think we're really happy that we're able to serve the community that is around us and that we're a part of. And then again, full broad spectrum services, primary care, peds, different mental health services. And we also offer reproductive health, so family planning. As I mentioned, pediatric services, I think we see that this is what families need the most support accessing. So whether that's for immunizations, different physical requirements, we're also happy to help with like developmental screenings. Yes. Reproductive health and family planning, another service that we provide, everything from STD testing, prevention, and treatment. We also offer health education. So I think students, families, anyone within the community who needs more information, we know that there's a lot of misinformation about reproductive health, or there could be some barriers to learning. So we're glad we're able to provide reproductive health services. And then mental health, as I mentioned, our compassionate staff is ready to help students and families with counseling. We also have psychiatric services and case management. And then I kind of touched on patient support services. You see the full list here. There's diabetes self-management education, chiropractic care, healthy habits, healthy kids, which is something we have found really popular with families. And we've even brought it to different schools to kind of tailor it to the needs of the parents that we meet at like parent nights or different community events. So in addition to these health education services, we're also happy to do different community events that are educational within like the public health sphere. Okay, I would say the main point that I want to really emphasize is we do offer free enrollment assistance. So any questions about Medi-Cal, whether you qualify, whether yours is still up to date, whether your families and kids qualify, we're able to help you with that. We'll get you scheduled with a certified enrollment staff member, and then we are able to answer any questions you have. We also take most managed care plans in addition to Medi-Cal. And then for any patients who may not be captured by that, so if they don't qualify for Medi-Cal, if they don't have other insurance options, we do have different programs and options to for them to be seen. So these would be different programs for patients who may not qualify or who have trouble accessing financially these services. So it's, for example, the Every Woman Counts program. We get women and people who have, or we help people complete their like breast exams, cervical cancer exams, and mammograms. We also have our Health Care for the Homeless program. I think ultimately the main point is we would, family health centers would never turn away a patient for the inability to be paid. So we do try to access different options for our families. And that is it for the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I can also pass out my information so that you have a point of contact. Yes. Yes, sorry. Yes, that's a great question. We do have urgent care in Logan Heights, at our Logan Heights Family Health Centers, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to switch on over, and feel free to pass out any flyers, anything else to our families. Thank you again for just collaborating with us overall. Okay, so we're going to transition to looking at the ELPAC, and thank you so much again for everybody joining us online. I know that you have some questions and we'll answer them in just a bit. So we're going to actually transition to our ELPAC. So if those that don't know what the ELPAC is the way that the state of California measures our students' English language proficiency. And so we're going to be taking a look at the little, I know you have it in black and white, but we're going to look at this score report right now and just walk you through exactly what does this mean, how we're able to read it for any of our students that are classified as English language learners. So the ELPAC for us that have students, how many speak Spanish in the household? Okay, and so if your student learned another language other than English, they have to by law take this test every single year. And so that is something that it's actually a federal law. It's something that we cannot opt out of. And so as a parent, we can't opt out of the ELPAC test, but it is something that measures their level of proficiency every year. So as students come in brand new into the country, there's something called the initial ELPAC. And so the initial ELPAC is given right away when the student first comes in to a brand new school, and they right away have to take what's called the initial ELPAC. So that gives us a level of where the student is at. And just for parents to know, we have overall levels from 1 to 2 to 3, and 4 is the highest level that a student can receive. The initial ELPAC is taken 30 days, within 30 days, as soon as the student enrolls in a school. And from that point, they only take it right when they arrive. From then on, in February, there's what's called the summative ELPAC. And so that's what's taken every single year. And it's until your student is reclassified that they have to continuously take the assessment every single year. So we're going to look at how to read a score report. And if in case you did not get this mailed home, I'm going to show you how to access it online because it's available already through the district's website. So we're going to take it step by step looking at this. And I know if you're online, we do have the link right there that's already been copied and pasted to you. If you click on there, you're able to download the exact same resource that we have in front of us here in person. So the first thing that you are going to look at is the score report gives you an overall score. So right here over on the left-hand side, and I'll go a little bit closer so that way our camera can see us. So the first thing is our overall score here. And so this tells you right away, again, the highest score that you can get is a 4. So the 4 means that this student has now really at that mark of about to be reclassified or has a very high level of English that's already been mastered. A 1 would mean that they are pretty much barely beginning to learn the language. So they really have a lot of gaps still in their English language proficiency. And so that would be a 1. A 2 would be making a little bit more progress than a 3 and a 4. And so you see here first is the level overall that the student has. And then it's broken up into 4 little peer parts right down here. So you can see what the student can do at each level. So like I described, level 1 is that beginning to develop, level 2, somewhat developed, level 3, moderately developed, and level 4, very well developed. So we're gonna now turn the page to here, and it's gonna break it down even further for you. So the score that the student gets, they actually did 4 different things in that in the ELPAC test. So there is, they had a listening test, they had a speaking test, they had a reading test, and they had a writing test. And so when they did the listening test, essentially there's little clips that the students hear, and then they have to answer some questions based off of what they hear. And so that's essentially their listening test. Their speaking test, they actually are sitting down one-on-one with their teacher, and they're actually speaking. So it could be different things like, here's this picture. Tell me a story about this picture. It depends on what grade level they're in. The level obviously gets a little bit more complex as we move up across the grades, but it sounds something like that. Reading, they're reading just either a story, a passage, different sentences, and then they have to answer comprehension questions. And then last but not least, they do have a writing portion where sometimes they write phrases, sometimes they will write whole sentences, sometimes they write a whole paragraph, depending on what grade they are. And so the speaking is scored directly by the teacher. The rest of the areas are on the computer. So automatically the computer will qualify whatever it is that their results were. So that gives them their overall score of what they received. Now, this is also broken up into two different areas. So their overall score for this student was a level 1, but it really is broken up into the oral language part and then the written language part. And what's nice about the score report is it tells you this student is pretty much at beginning to develop all the way across, which is why they got a 1. But if they would have got, some at 2, some at 3, then their overall level probably would have been at a 2 or a 3. And so every single year we are striving for our English language learners to at least acquire 1 grade or 1 level above. So if they started at a 1, if this student is a kindergartner, I look at up here, next year in first grade, we'd like to see the student at a level 2 so that they make adequate progress. And so level, obviously in third grade, we would want to see them at a level 3. And then in fourth grade, we'd like to see them at a level 4. If a student stays at the same level for more than 2 years, they can be what's called at risk for becoming a long-term English language learner, meaning that they're not making progress. Something is happening. And that for us as a school lets us know we need to work with these kids a little bit more in different ways because they're not acquiring every level every single year. So this is the ELPAC score report. I want to just stop there, just make sure if there's any questions as far as how to read the report or online, and if you can help me, Heather. Any questions? ¿Algunas preguntas? Yes.
So, by fourth grade, they should be testing. Is there a reason that?
If they get 1 level above, however, students can grow like exponentially in 1 year. And it could be that they receive a 3 for their first year, and then they're at a 4 and they're ready to be reclassified.
And then until what grade level do you test?
All the way up until, in this case, we're 8th grade. They can technically test here until 8th grade. Of course, we'd love to see that if our students were here with us for many, many years, we'd like to see 1 level of growth each year. We do have an individual staff member that works specifically with our English language learners and also our long-term English language learners to give them specific strategies, but also our teachers work on that in the classroom. In their schedule, they have something called English language development time. And so every single classroom on campus has an ELD block where the teacher meets with students in a small group to work with them. So the ones she would pull, let me work with all my ones because they're at the same level and give them the skills, a level 2, a level 3, and so forth. So we try to group them by ability levels to give them very specialized strategies. And Mr. Villarreal, I know you had your hand raised, I think, from my corner of the eye.
I'm going to respond to the question. So yeah, ideally, kindergarten, first, second, third, and they should be reclassifying by around 3rd or 4th grade. However, what also happens is we also have what are called newcomers that come in, let's say 2nd grade, 3rd grade, or even middle school. So then they start from where they're at, either at a level 1, 2, or 3, where they test, and then they start that progress also. So thank you for that question. And then we'll talk about reclassification and what that does for students as well. Thank you, Dr. Slane.
Sorry, just changing it so that we could see all our speakers.
What about if the student has a level here in the first or a 3, but in the level 1?
So that's a really good question. So if you look here, so this is written language. So let's say that they're doing really well with the oral language, then the teacher knows specifically, I need to work more with developing their oral comprehension or it could be their written comprehension. And so that's also, the teacher gets a little bit more information than just this. They do get, the scale score, which is essentially it's a range of a score. So that way the teacher knows, are they on the lower side of that scale? Are they on the upper side of that scale? So that they know exactly what to work on with the student. But great questions. Any questions online? Yes.
I have one question online. Once they are at a level 4, do they continue taking the test?
Great question, which leads us into my next part, which is reclassification. But before I get there, I just want to make sure that everyone's able to access. So you should have been mailed this. However, if you did not get it at home for whatever reason, no problem. We're going to actually look at the Home Access Center so that we can walk you through that. So give me 1 second. So now we're going to be looking, oh, yes, Mr. Lam. Yes.
So we don't speak to our kids in Spanish. So they've been on 1 the whole year?
I'm so sorry, I didn't understand. It depends where they score. So if it really, okay, so that's a great, so we're gonna now look at how to get your score report so that way you can access it for your student. So now we're gonna look at this, it's the Home Access Center. So the Home Access Center is online, and this is where you can get not only the ELPAC score reports, but also the CASP score reports. So if, how many of us, raise of hands, how many of us have 3rd through 8th graders? Have a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th or 8th grader? Okay, great. So that means that your student took the CASP test. So the CASP test is what measures their level of proficiency in English language arts and math. And so that same, you receive a very similar score report. It looks almost exactly the same, but now for CASP, so for the ELA and math portion of the test, you receive the exact same thing. And it is broken down by different areas. But if you did not receive it in the mail, no problem. We're gonna show you how to access it online. So you have here in English, and then you also have it in Spanish as well. The directions for how to get these reports. It's all through the district website. And so you actually click into, you go to exactly cvsd.org, and I'll show you exactly where it is. And Ms. Gallion, should I do it on here or should I do it on, what would be easier?
If you do it on there, that would be great. Then parents can still see it.
Okay. All right. This is the love of my life, my doggy. All right, so when we log in, and you just go to the cvsd.org website, so the Chula Vista Elementary School District website. So you will go to where it says, whoops, hold on, give me 1 second. I just had it the other day. I believe it's parents, and then I believe it's my child's school. Yes, so you go to parents, you clicked on my child's school, and then you go to where it says the Home Access Center. So this is going to be your new best friend to know how to pull up these reports as soon as they become available. So once you get to here, if you've never logged in before, you are going to need to register first. Okay, so you will register online, and the steps are included here. And parents online, we are happy to post this, what the resources that we provided in person, we will post them online for you as well, so that you have also the directions. So once you are on here, you will actually go to where it says register if you've never been here before. If you have, then you're just going to click on login. Okay, but you are going to need to register first. I'll just go to register. So when I click on register, you're going to see that it has, okay, my child's first name, last name, the city, and the zip code. You're going to need to enter it in exactly how you registered your student. Exactly. So if the zip code was, I don't know, 92108, that is what you need to put under the zip code. So it's exactly how your student was registered in the school. If for whatever reason you can't remember, no problem. Please contact our front office, either Martita, Marcela, or Melissa, and they can let you know exactly what the zip code and everything that you used when you registered your student. So it's a pretty simple process. Just to register, you'll follow those steps. As soon as you log in, you're going to be able to see your students' score reports for the English, for the ELPAC, for the English Language Proficiency Exam, and then also for CASP as well. And so every single year, this gets populated around August. So around August is when CASP results are going to be entered in online. And around, I think it's, when do we get ELPAC results back? Usually in August. So check it around August. That is usually when you'll see the score reports come up for both, if in case, for whatever reason, you did not get the printed copy at home. But this is a great way to be able to check it online. You'll also notice on the directions here that if you have multiple kids, because I know some of us have different, have multiple students, you're gonna see that it says down here, you can, once you register, you'll have a tab that says change student. And then you can change your student's name so that you can access the same reports. But that's here, down here at the very bottom where it says multiple students or múltiples de estudiantes. But that's once you register. So I'm not going to walk you through the whole process. We have that here, but we will definitely make sure to post it online for everybody so that we have all of the resources, but just a great place to find all of the score reports for your students. Right. So we will switch back over to now my next part, which is reclassification, to answer exactly the question of, does the student need to take the ELPAC test forever? And the answer is no, they do not. So reclassification, and you'll hear this more in Q4 once we are, because in Q4 we have a part of our awards assembly in Q4 is to hand out our reclassification certificates. So what that means when a student is considered reclassified, it basically means I no longer need the supports of an English language learner at school. I can do it just like any other native speaker. And so that's essentially what that means. Now, the way to reclassify, it is a process to be able to do so. I'm doing it on here, Heather, and now I forgot that we have a different computer. So there are 4 requirements, and it could be a year process or it could take up to 4 years, depending on the student's progress. So there's 4 criteria that we look at to reclassify a student. The first one is the ELPAC test. So the exact score report, we look to see, have they reached the level 4? If they've reached the level 4, that right away tells us this is a student that is on the verge to be reclassified. So that's the first thing. This is given every single year in February. So if your student got that 4, that marks for us as a school like, okay, this is a kid we've already flagged. We're going to now continue looking at the rest of the criteria. So now if a student has scored a 4 on the ELPAC test, then we go to the next level. We look at academic achievement. So for our kiddos that are in kinder and first grade, they take something called the Smarty Ants test at the end of the year. It's in May. So if they got met or exceeded on the Smarty Ants test, then that means that they have met the second criteria. That means we are good to go on the second piece. If they are a student that's in second through, and actually that should say 8th grade, 2nd through 8th grade, and they scored approaching the grade level band at that point, then we also know, okay, good, they've met the second criteria. And last but not least, if they're also a student in 3rd through 6th grade, we also look at another piece for academic achievement. That's their CASP results for ELA and just in ELA, because we're measuring just their proficiency of the language, and that's measured through English language arts. And so that, if they scored nearly met in that middle of the range, then okay, they have met the criteria. They are ready for now the easier parts of the criteria. So criteria number 3 is a teacher evaluation. So every single year, if let's say they've met now ELPAC, they got level 4, they met the local measures or the CASP ELA, then they're ready now for the teacher is going to receive a form. And on the form, it's going to say, okay, this is Erin Leal. I'm just going to use a past student of mine. Okay, Erin Leal has met all the criteria. Teacher, you are going to now tell us, is this student really doing well in English language arts or not? And in all academic areas. And so the teacher measures in 3 times during the year. So it is in, I believe it's at the very beginning of the year, in January, and then in May. And they have to check off, yes, they are making great progress, every single component. That is now, and then the last piece, once we have all those 3, is now we are going to ask you as a parent, okay, your child has met the 3 criteria, but now we need to ask you as a parent, basically, do you give us permission to reclassify the student? And that is that last piece. If the parent signs off, yes, my student does no longer needs the English language supports in the classroom, then we're good to go. The student is reclassified. And so that is the goal. The goal ultimately for all of our English language learners is that they've acquired the language to a level of proficiency where they don't need the supports anymore. And we can actually just provide them what any other native speaker can. All right, I'm going to pause there for any questions on the reclassification process.
So it actually takes 1 year to classify.
It could take 1 year, or it could take 4 or more.
But since they reach like the level 4 and that one, it takes 1 year for the teacher to tell, okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so let's say first year in the United States, somehow scores a level 4, that's great. We can continue going down the criteria. So yeah, it could be as quick as a year. You know, some of our kindergartners or even our TK kiddos that are coming in, they could be reclassified within a year. But for some, we know there's a lot that we are, and that's because we want multiple measures to make sure these kiddos really are making the progress that they need in order to be classified as a native speaker, or what you'll see is it's called RFEP. That's when you know that they're reclassified, and that's for they've reached the reclassification process. Any other questions, either online, Ms. Gallion, or from the group? ¿Algunas preguntas más sobre nuestra, bueno, no de nuestra, es el del distrito? Sí, Ms. Irazu.
En español.
Ujú.
¿Qué pasa con ese estudiante que no, o sea, que está a largo plazo y que no termina su octavo grado y todavía sé que lo que siguen haciendo en high school?
Ujú.
¿Qué pasa si no es reclasificado? ¿En qué le afecta académicamente ese?
Sí, muy buena pregunta. So the question is, I'm going to say it in English and then I'll answer in English and Spanish, is, you know, what happens to a student that gets to 8th grade, it hasn't been reclassified? You know, does that affect them academically for high school? And the answer is yes. So this is how it could potentially affect them. So in high school, if they still haven't received that high level and they're considered still a long-term English language learner, they are more likely than not going to be given ELD classes. Instead of English, they should be taking English 9 when they get to high school. They probably will be given ELD either, depending on their level, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, depends on their level. But that automatically means the student isn't getting the English 9 course that they need to be on track for college. So it's really important that we get the kiddos to be reclassified by 8th grade. So that is it's a big goal. Nomás para decirlo en español rápidamente, la pregunta era de que cómo les afecta a nuestros niños si no son reclasificados al 8º grado. Y sí les afecta en la preparatoria porque dependiendo del nivel que tienen en el ELPAC, le pueden dar en vez de la clase English 9, que es la clase que se debe de dar a un estudiante de 9º grado en literatura, pueden en vez agarrar una clase de ELD, que eso automáticamente para los estudiantes significa de que no van a tener la oportunidad de ir al colegio universitario porque se requiere 4 años de tener inglés 9, inglés 10, inglés 11, inglés 12. Teniendo clases de ELD, no les da la oportunidad al estudiante de llegar a la clase que tienen que tomar para la universidad.
Pero no le estamos, cuando yo fui a la high school, yo también fui a ELD classes, pero I remember que como en el segundo año te hacen una prueba y si pasas esa prueba ya vas a regular.
Sí, entras a una clase regular, pero eso significa que ya perdiste ese inglés 9. Entonces, para las universidades, ellos ven that now it's changed.
Oh,
So we
okay.
have the A through G
Okay.
requirements. And so, y parte de los A through G requirements, requirement A es de que te ocupan 4 años de una materia de literatura, pero ELD no cuenta como eso.
Okay.
So that is a new thing. Yes. Ms. Gallion.
So what can happen also is that because they have to take these quote unquote what they're called remedial classes, then they might have to take summer classes or you know, so the schools do or they don't qualify for an elective, that meaning that they have to take a core class. So the schools still
When it's
do
for
as much as they can to qualify them, but it's more challenging.
Ms. Gallion, online questions.
Real quick, can I just add one thing to Ms. Irazu's question? I apologize, Ms. Yellen. Also this year, because we did see the need for our LTELs, which are our ELs that are not being reclassified, we actually added a position that now they are being met with in small group every day of the week, different grade levels, so that those students can be getting that small group instruction specifically in preparation for the ELPAC.
Okay, Ms. Gallion, over to you.
I have a virtual question. Who do we contact in order to discuss any support we can give at home?
Oh, very good. So we actually have parent-teacher conferences coming up. And so that's going to be your first step. And actually, Ms. Ramirez is going to talk a little bit about parent-teacher conferences because first level support is the teacher. And so we know that's why we encourage you to ask these questions now that you know it to the teacher. Okay, my student's at a level 2. What supports are you providing in the classroom for my student who is at a level 2 or who's at a level 3 or my student hasn't made progress over 2 years? So these could be some questions, but that is first level of support. That I would say reach out to the classroom teacher, and we have parent-teacher conferences coming up in a week and a half, not even 1 week as of today. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Ramirez if there is no other questions on reclassification and how it could affect our kiddos.
Okay. So like Dr. Slayman mentioned, we do have parent-teacher conferences coming up, and this really is your opportunity to be able to meet with the teacher, get to know them, understand how your child is working in the class. And so a lot of times we show up to parent-teacher conferences and we just sort of receive what's given to us. But we want to equip you guys to be able to really advocate for your kids, to go in knowing what questions to ask so that you know how to support your kids at home. So with that said, we're going to talk about what we can expect and what questions you could ask. So we'll talk about what you might want to do before the conference, during the conference, and after the conference. Dr. Singer, would you mind switching that for us? Okay, so before the conference, so very first thing you'll want to do is sit down with your child, talk with them, and find out, what do you want me to ask? Is there anything that you want me to follow up about with your teacher? Once you know that, you can write down any notes or questions that your child might have or that you might have, and go ahead and go in with your notes. So be ready to ask your questions. Then while you're in the conference, we have a couple of example questions that you can ask the teacher of your student. What are the skills that you expect my child to master this year? So what is it that my child needs to know in order to be successful? Is my child working up to his or her ability? So how is my child doing academically, socially, in your class? And is it to the maximum of their ability? How do you accommodate for learning styles? So what is it that you're doing in order to, we use the word in education, we use the word differentiate. Like, how are you meeting my child's needs where they're at? And how can I stay involved in my child's learning? So this is probably, of all the questions, the most important, because this question is going to help you to know at the end of the meeting today, what can I continue to do at home in order to support my child? So those are a few example questions, but again, any other questions that you might have, write them down prior to your conference, because when you get in the conference, there's going to be a lot of information thrown at you and it's easy to forget. So go in with your plan. And then after the conference, so once you're done meeting with the teacher, you'll want to make sure, if your child is not present at the conference, which sometimes they are and sometimes they are not, if your child is not present at the conference, you'll want to sit down, plan a time to set aside to share with them what the teacher shared, what goals the teacher spoke about, and reflect on that with your child at home. And then most important, create a plan with them. So if you go into your child's parent conference and the teacher tells you your child is not where they should be with high frequency words, they really need to practice high frequency words at home. When you get home with your student, sit down and make a plan. So when you get home every day after dinner, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to pull out our index cards and we're going to practice our high frequency words. So what was the need and what is the plan in order to accomplish that need at home? And of course, at school, we have that same expectation for teachers that they would create those plans, but the help that you guys give at home can really go a long way. So that's it for parent-teacher conferences. Are there any questions about conferences? No. Ms. Gallion, any questions online?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to continue the theme also on talking about English language learners. So there are a lot of protections for English language learners. So because we are a school that has a large population of English language learners, probably close to 90% of our students are English language learners. However, on paper, we're only about 60%. Because what happens sometimes when parents fill out the home language survey, some parents are aware that when their kids are limited English speakers, that they are going to be tested, that they're going to be given extra support. And unfortunately, what happens with these parents is that they don't want their kids to quote unquote struggle with extra work. But that really counts against the students, because then if they're not classified as English language learners, then they're not technically legally, or we're not legally required to give them the services. However, we still give them to them because we know they're low. But it helps us a lot when parents actually fill out the forms accurately. So that's a very important thing, because that brings us to what we call an English English Learner Advisory Committee. As a school, when you have 21 students or more, then you technically and legally have to have an English Learner Advisory Committee. This English Learner Advisory Committee, if we go to the next slide, please, helps us here at school to manage and ensure that our kids are getting the supports that they need. So again, it is inclusive of parents, staff, and the community, so that we all work as a team. So you're going to be hearing more about this ELAC this year. We're starting the conversation. Some of you that have been here with us are already familiar. Ms. Irasu Nogues has been part of our ELAC, and she's also part of what we call our District Advisory Committee, which is the DAC, and then also the DLAC, which is the District English Learner Advisory Committee. Those meetings are held at the district office. Once a month, from our school, we take a team to those meetings. Ms. Rasul, as a parent, is one of our parents. We also have 2 other parents. And then one of us, the principals, join them once a month also at the district office. But we also have to have a meeting here at school, okay? So again, ELAC is to support our English language learners on their path to lifelong success. So it's very important. We go to the next slide, please. So what is the responsibility of the ELAC group? Yes, question?
We just have an online question. I have a parent asking how can I become part of that committee?
We are going to be providing that information during the session right now, and then we're going to be sending information out today, and then during the weekend, weekly reminder email for you all to get involved on there. So thank you for asking that very important question. So the English Language Advisory Committee does a lot of work on making sure that we are in compliance with the ELPAC, that we are making sure that our students are getting the supports that they need. Mrs. Ramirez talked about a instructional assistant who just works with just English language learners because they need that extra support to learn English. Not that they're not smart or that they're behind. They're behind because they're learning a language. So we have to give them that extra support. So help us out, parents, because sometimes our kiddos also think that because they're English language learners, that they're not as smart as others, and that is not the case. Okay, and that's part of an unfortunate stigma that happens, and that's also why some parents don't help us out on the home language survey. And not to blame parents, because I know parents just want the best for their kids. Okay, so we're going to be sharing this important information. Part of learning English is also being at school every day. The unfortunate thing is that some of our English language learners sometimes don't have the best attendance. We don't know why, but one of the goals of the committee is to look at attendance for our English language learners. Sometimes there are health issues. Sometimes there are economic issues. Sometimes there are crises that happen and we don't know, but when we find out, then we can help the families so that their kids can be at school. And sometimes our most vulnerable families are our Latino families, are our families that are single home mothers at home that have to work and take care of their kids. And they sometimes don't know how to ask for the help, or sometimes they're ashamed. So we are here to help. So the ELAC committee helps us with evaluating the needs of our community. So it's very important that we have at least, you know, a good group of 6 to 7 parents. There is no minimum or maximum of how many members we can have on an ELAC, but we should have at least 4 to 5 so that we can have good representation, okay? So again, if we can go on to the next slide, please. So the question about information as to how to get involved in ELAC, that is going, so we're starting the conversation today here at this meeting. We are going to be sending out information later on today about nominations. So please check your email or the communication logs that you get from the school. It will also be on the weekly communication that you get every weekend, okay? Every weekend. Now, if you don't have email or you're not getting email, then you need to let us know because we may have your incorrect email. Okay, thank you so much for that. So nominations are, first we do have to nominate officially. So we have to have individuals either nominate themselves or other parents like you talk to other parents that may or may not be here to nominate them as well. And then we'll have an election, and then the community will vote for the parents, okay? And then the meetings will be announced, but typically they are once a month, okay? And they are here at school, not at the district. They are here at school, the ELAC meetings, and they'll typically last between 30 minutes and an hour, depending. But here's the great thing about ELAC. ELAC can help us out with so many other activities around school, building the culture, working with PTO, working with our administration, working with our teachers, working on getting, get a mess, going. There's so many fun activities that come with it. It's not just business. It's really about making learning a fun experience for students and for parents as well. So that information will be coming out. Any questions on the timeline or the nominations and elections? Thank you for listening. Yes, questions? No, okay, I believe we have another slide,
Yes.
right? Okay. Thank you. So this is gonna be our last slide for our meeting this morning. Just a wrap up. First, I wanna say thank you for those of you that have come here today, that were here last week. I see some recurring, faces. So hopefully we're able to come here. This is where we're gonna meet from now on, because now we have a classroom that we can meet. It's a little better to communicate and listen. We're not meeting in the NPR anymore. We're going to change to this room when we have our coffee with administration, okay? And then also, again, parent-teacher conferences, very important. They will start next Thursday, and they'll go through the following Friday on the 23rd with the teachers. Make sure you schedule, if you do not have a conference scheduled, you would like a conference, just communicate with your teachers so that you can get that conference scheduled. Again, we'll have assemblies for the end of the quarter, honor roll for perfect attendance, and then those will be the week of October 10th. You'll get that information through your teachers, through Class Dojo or other forms of communication. We have another very exciting opportunity for you parents. Okay, Parent Institute for Quality Education, otherwise also known as PIQUE, is coming back to Feaster. They're starting on October 10th. So we're going to be sending out information also. This is going to be after the fall break. You'll be getting information directly from the organization PIQUE, some flyers, some information about what the classes are. These are for parents, okay? And these are targeting these are going to target some of our middle school parents as well as our elementary parents, and they're educational on how you can support your children so that they can be successful in life. Also, classes for parents on how you can also continue to grow as an individual as well. So look out for that information. And then our next coffee with the administration will be October 13th, next month. And one other important thing that's coming up is our fall break. So, being on a year-round schedule, we'll have a 2-week break. The Friday, the 23rd, which is next Friday. No, 2 Fridays. 2 Fridays, sorry. The 23rd will be our last day, and then we come back on October. Anyone have that date off the top of their head? Because I don't. 11th, okay? So thank you for joining us today. Any questions on any general items? They don't have to be questions on anything on the agenda, but any questions from anyone, either online or here at present? Sí, pregunta.
Shy or something like we don't want to find out, or like we just came here like there's another resources that people don't know about and they don't know who's provided because it's not for the country that there's it's just like the parents on their own, so like they have to find out that over here there's like a lot of stuff they can get, so they just have to ask. There's no wrong questions. The wrong question is not to ask the question, so don't be shy.
Thank you for that comment. Thank you. And yes, please network and communicate with each other. Thank you for sharing that comment. Sí. Sí, lo está traduciendo. Okay. Yes, you have a question, sir? Okay. Any questions online, Ms. Gallion? Well, we want to thank you so much. We will see you, if not before October 13th, we'll see you on campus around or during parent conferences. Thank you again and have a great Thursday today. Thank you, everyone.